Ladies and gentlemen, before we move forward, let me take this moment to thank our valued partners who have supported us for this much awaited summit. Thank you to our platinum partner, Perfios, technology partner, Kindle, associate partner, Checkpoint, and KYC partner, Sarangi. Well, coming up next is another session that is of interest for one and all. We are talking of cyber security. India has been at the forefront of attacks targeted at the Asian region, with 7.4% of the targeted attacks in the year 2022 being towards the Indian subcontinent. Whether it was nationalized banks, cryptocurrency exchanges or wallets, NBFCs or credit card data leaks, India emerged as Asia's newfound hotspot for cyber attacks. There are a host of factors that make banking and finance industry a risky proposition. To detail these, we have amongst us Mr. Manoj Sarangi, Senior Vice President, NSDL, Mr. Mohinder Pal Arora, DGM and Head of Networking and IT Security, Union Bank of India, Mr. Praveen Mishra, CISO, Axis Finance, and the session will be moderated by our very own Sumana Sarkar, Bureau Chief, FinancialExpress.com. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed speakers up on the stage, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much for all of you for joining in. Digitization in the BFSI segment is gaining traction, and perhaps what is also becoming the need of the hour along with that is a robust cyber security system. As my colleague here, he was detailing, India, according to several reports, is emerging as one of the hotspots for cyber attacks across Asia. And what I was just during my conversation before the panel, I got to know almost 60% of these attacks are targeted for unpatched assets. So how do we address these vulnerabilities, and what is the strategy that one should go forward with? I'll start off with Praveen. What according to you are the key challenges, and how do you see addressing them?
We are actually getting targeted, and most of those targets are basically identifying the vulnerabilities within our system, right? So I will not utilize various technical jargons. Vulnerabilities are doors and windows which are open within our environment, right? Tech environment, people, process, and technology, right? So those are the three pillars with which any organization basically works. So through those vulnerabilities, attackers are basically trying to get into our environment, steal the information or encrypt the information, as ransomware has become a very prominent name now, right, to ask for the ransoms. So how do we protect against these issues which we are facing at the moment? First and foremost is to identify what needs to be protected, right? If we do not know what needs to be protected, then we cannot implement relevant controls. So identifying those assets, IT assets, people assets, and processes through which organizations are working, categorize them as per the criticalities, right, and implement various controls. So that is, I think, one of the most important factor in securing the organization and securing our customer interests as well.
Yeah, so my next question would be to you, Mohinder. What, according to what Praveen just mentioned, awareness, how do you see awareness, and whether you consider it as one of the challenges, your perspective on that?
Sure. Thank you, Sumana. See, first of all, when we are talking about BFSI sector, I mean, we know that banking, financial sector, and insurance. So this is the backbone of any economy. This plays a very, very vital role as far as the economy is concerned. However, we also need to know that this is the sector which is most vulnerable, which is most susceptible to the cyber frauds or cyber threats. Now, your question is, how do we educate the users? How do we create awareness? I'm always of the view, see, security is always evolving. You can put best of the solutions, but you cannot guarantee 100% of the security coverage. So the cyber hygiene, which is very, very important, to educate the stakeholders, whether they are internal, they are external, or they are your partners. They need to be educated about all your security policies, about the frameworks, about the governance models. Until you do that, you try to place the best of the solutions, but you will not be able to guarantee the security. Of course, education plays a very, very vital role, but it does not mean that we should not invest on the cyber security framework. So it is also the responsibility of any organization to make sure that they are having right cyber security framework in place. That may also include the right set of tools, the right set of education that need to be given to the stakeholders, and also to make sure that we have a right incident response plan. So, in case if disaster occurs or any kind of ransomware attack occurs to your organization, how well you are prepared to make sure that you can come out of that kind of risk. So, this is my view in terms of like coming out of this security risk.
Manoj, if I can come to you next, how do you see the current challenges in the cybersecurity arena across the BFSI segment?
Thank you, Sumana, and good afternoon, everyone. So I'll like to dovetail into what a previous panelist told. How do you glorify risk management? Okay, so let me ask a simple question. What is the function of a brake in a car? Most of you say that it's to stop the car. If better the brakes, it's easier and faster you stop the car. The moment that we have that mindset, we cannot glorify risk. So let's say Ferrari has ceramic brakes. It makes the car stop faster or go faster. So if you say that it makes the car go faster, that's how you glorify risk management. It's an enabler. So the moment that we think about risk management, information security as something that's an impediment which stops, which prohibits, which restricts, that's the moment we are losing the battle. So all the security, whatever awareness that we build, will not work if we project risk management on cyber security as something that stops you, that prohibits you from doing something. So I was going through a Verizon DVI report which comes annually. 83% of the breaches happen for financial benefits. So financial industry is the biggest target. Then 84% of the breaches are related to individuals. That means awareness and people are the key. And again, 19% of the breaches are linked to insiders, within the organization. So what does that mean? That means that financial organizations at risk, and the risk is targeting people. It could be social engineering, it could be other means. And then, you have to protect the inside as well as outside. People from inside, it's not always malicious. It's most of the time people are either careless or they are not aware of what they need to do. Okay, the way they guard assets at home, probably that's the same kind of instinct or same kind of mindset that need to develop when they're protecting organizational assets. And I do agree with my co-panelist, the measures and other things that need to be there. We need to have them. But beyond that, we need to elevate the ecosystem to make sure that security and risk management is something that is embedded in the design of the organization rather than kind of which is superimposed as a overhead which people are reluctant to adopt.
Yeah, very valid point. And if I can add, Mohinder, you were alluding to the context, like keeping pace with vulnerabilities. If you can elaborate on that, because technology as it changes, the risk as well as the opportunities both are evolving. So how do you see in the BFSI industry keeping pace with vulnerabilities?
Yeah. See now, we all know that customer is ever demanding. We know we are working for the customer, we are working for the business. So now how do we ensure that we get the right kind of business and the right set of customers? So we need to have the right set of solutions. And what type of solutions they are? Say we have to venture into digital transformation. We have to bring a lot of new products which are there in the market, which are there available in the public cloud space, which cannot be hosted on premise. We have to, whether willingly, unwillingly, we have to opt for such solutions which are open sourced solutions, which are not fully mature. When we actually venture into these kind of areas, in order to provide the best of the business to our customers, we always we get trapped to a kind of risk which is kind of cyber risk. So when we see that there are certain kind of scenarios which cannot be avoided, and cyber risk is always there in terms of providing the right solutions to the customers. So two things we have to see. In case if there is a cyber attack on any of the BFSI sector, so two things which I always feel, first thing and the foremost thing is we lose the trust of the customer, which can never be rebuilt by way of anything which you pay to the industry. See, once you lose the trust in the customer, whether they are investors, they are your depositors, they are lenders, it is very, very difficult to bring back the reputation that you had. That is first thing. And second thing, and the foremost thing, is the cost of recovery. See, once you are attacked by any kind of breach, data breach or ransomware, you have to invest in order to do either incident response, or you have to pay penalties to the regulators, or you have to do some legal settlements. So these things are not very easy when we are running in such an enterprise class of business and we are providing the latest technology solutions. So again, I repeat the point. See, the BFI sector is always risk prone. However, by taking the right mitigating actions, say by implementing cybersecurity framework, by doing the capacity building, by educating the stakeholders, I think we can very well protect the systems and make sure that we are able to provide the right business to the customers, and we are also able to protect the systems.
Yeah, providing the right solution. So, Praveen, if I can ask you, tech is something which is evolving constantly. So, how do you add scale to solutions?
It is actually a very relevant topic, right, for any CIO and CISO. So we are living in a world where every day some new version of a software is coming, or new application or system is coming, right? Either your technology stack is changing or your application layer. As we have already discussed, right, bringing security right from the beginning, while we are basically designing a solution for our customers, keeping financial or let's say utilization of that particular system in mind, bringing security aspect to it, right? For an example, conducting a security architecture review while designing that particular solution. That will give you what kind of right technologies can be utilized with safeguards, right? Your application and in turn your stakeholders, customers and investors both, including your employees. That is one part. So in the beginning, we can do an review, which basically tells us what right solutions we can utilize to build that particular functionality within the organization. Going forward, what we have to do is basically to monitor it, right? So onboarding, deployment, monitoring, and phasing out the solution. So these are the three primary aspects of any IT, I would say, enablement within the organization. And maintaining information security or cyber security aspect through all these three phases are very critical.
So one of the key things that you mentioned is monitoring. So Manoj, if I can pose you, how does deploying the right technology also comes with a cost aspect? So where do you marry the cost element with the necessities?
I think this question was very relevant maybe 5 years back. because there is a lot of explanation and security was considered as a cost element. But in today's world, it's no, considered a cost element, and it's something that See, I have seen security professionals moving from data center to boardroom, from becoming from guards to detectives. So the role of security personnel have gone through a complete makeover, and that reflects in the organizations. Even most organization board members are pretty serious about security measures that the organization must take. But beyond that point, if you look at the what is the product enough? I have seen organizations which deployed the best of the class products and solutions have undergone cyber attacks. So is that enough? The question is, not really. See, along with the products or solutions that you need to build strong processes to counter cyber attacks. For example, if you look at last 5 years, all the cyber attacks that have happened, very few are attributed to very high-tech attacks, which people find hard to detect. But most of the attacks happened because of hygiene. So if you maintain something like a clean hygiene, if you go back Petya and WannaCry ransomware, that attack happened and there is quite a large amount of losses everywhere because systems are not patched. It's as simple as that. So basic hygiene is one. Second is, keeping the whole ecosystem aware about the changes. So now we are seeing something like a deep fakes and voice clones. That means I take your voice sample for 3 seconds and I can generate your voice and call someone in your voice and interact. So it's getting to be slightly difficult in that space. But the base is again, you need to have the basic cyber hygiene and keep improving and keep upgrading the ecosystem, including your human resources.
When you when you discuss cyber hygiene, so how much of it, how do we democratize certain cyber security measures and how do we institutionalize it through the system? Mohinder, if I can ask the question to you, like how exactly do you make it part of the process instead of it being an additional step?
Sure. So first thing, when we talk about cyber hygiene, see, it does not, as I spoke about earlier, see, first thing, of course, we need to make sure that all my stakeholders, internal, external, partners, vendors, everybody is well aware about my security governance model. So they should be well trained, they should be well informed. So that is the first and foremost pillar of the cyber hygiene. Apart from, I also insist upon, see, as I told earlier, see, you can invest best of the solutions, however, you will not be able to guarantee on the security. So how do you make sure that you are able to come out of this risk? So what is the basic part of cyber hygiene? You also ensure that whatever critical systems you are handling, they may be servers, they may be devices, they may be some other equipments, make sure that all of the systems are backed up. The recovery mechanism is tested on periodical basis. Also ensure that the patching is always to the latest which is available. So these are the basic governance mechanism by which we can ensure the cyber hygiene. However, I'll also touch upon one of the important point. We also talk about zero trust. All of us very well understand what zero trust means. So it means never trust on any users, any device until it is proven otherwise. So it means never trust, verify always. So this is the fundamental principle of the cyber hygiene. However, one thing I like to correlate, see, as we always say in a lighter mode, if you don't come out of your home, you will never meet an accident. So it does not mean that when you talk about zero security, zero trust, that you will not take risks. You are supposed to take risks because you are in the market, you are supposed to do the business. So this is also very important when you talk about zero trust. you also need to align your business model with the stakeholders so that you are able to provide the right solution to the right set of customers by ensuring the right level of security.
Very true. But what you mentioned about unpatched assets, and Praveen, you were also discussing this, how 60% of the cyber attacks are targeted towards unpatched assets. So if you could just elaborate on that.
So, unpatched assets, right? Now, these are the vulnerabilities which can be basically uh, which can be utilized by attackers and get into our systems, right? Uh, so before going any technical, I think it may not be needed here. Let's understand what is a vulnerability, what is a threat, and what is a risk, right? So Praveen is basically going on a vacation, right? And he forgot to lock his door. And when he boarded a flight, he remembered, I forgot to lock my door. So patching, which we are talking about, right? Patching is something locking a door, right? So open door is a vulnerability. And assets which are there in my house are now subjected to a theft, right? Anyone can come and steal whatever is there in my house and go away. But who will steal that particular asset? A thief. Now, risk, which we keep on referring to, right? In any scenario, not only in information security, but financial risk, market risks, whatever, right? So that particular risk which we talk in this particular situation is a thief. So if thief doesn't come, my neighborhood is extra protected or people are extra good, right? I'm not at risk. No one will steal my asset, right? But that is a scenario I don't think applicable anywhere in the world. If I keep my door open, people will come and steal my assets, right? So these are the few aspects which I wanted to basically impart through this particular stage, that servers patching, network patching, etc., we sometimes ignore it, right? We keep on getting deviations. I mean, we have CEOs here, CEOs of the world, CROs, CISOs of the world. We keep on giving deviation. It is the same situation where I forgot to lock my door. And now I have opened my door for any attacker to come and steal my asset, right? It doesn't matter. If a person doesn't want to, I don't have, sometimes we keep on hearing, right? It's not an important application. There is not much data in that particular application, but that application can be integrated to some other application, or it is at least in your network, right? Even if it is a SaaS model, something or other is integrated within our systems, right? Let's go back to the example. I don't have any assets at my home, right? A drug lord can come and start operations from there. He will not steal it, but still I am vulnerable, right? So it is very easy, right? If we understand the security and then expand it to a technical layer where we can protect ourselves.
Very true. And so, when we are talking of cyber security and the modern challenges, it's hard not to discuss generative AI. So, Manoj, if I can start with you, do you see AI as an enabler or a point of concern?
Okay, when you talk about AI, okay, any technology that can be enabler or otherwise as well. So when you talk about AI, the risk associated with AI is bias, is something that comes first to your mind. AI is based on algorithm, and any algorithm developed by anyone is subject to bias. So that's one aspect. Second is, the AI and robotics has moved much beyond automation. So we used to kind of synonymize AI with automation. So AI, once you give a complete decision-making process to AI, that becomes slightly difficult. I'll give a simple example. All of us use something called a security orchestration and response, SOAR. Anyone heard of SOAR here? Okay, good, fantastic. So, do you know what is the ratio of any popular platform? What is the ratio of something going wrong in a SOAR platform? It's not less. Even if it is 5%, I'll not do it because 5 times in a security or a risk scenario, I'll not like wrong decision to be taken without me knowing about it. So that's very very difficult to handle. So that's one aspect. Second aspect is what is that you are expecting AI to do? Are you getting intelligence, information, analytics, and stuff like that? It's pretty good. I think that's a very positive use of AI in security aspect. But if you are leaving it to make decisions for you, that's something that we have to guard against and go a little cautious.
Mohinder, you want to add to that?
So I'm fully in favor of generative AI approach as far as cybersecurity is concerned. See, we always talk about security in 3 layers. The first, earlier we used to talk about, say, reactive. So whenever the incident will happen, you will act upon it. Then the scenario came when we talked about proactive. So you should be having an understanding when this kind of, say, incident can happen so that you are well prepared to mitigate that kind of risk. Now we are talking about predictive. So it means before the incident occurs, can I predict? Can I understand the gravity of the risk which is associated with this kind of solution? So we are gradually transforming ourselves from reactive to proactive to predictive. So I'm 100% sure, as my co-panelist has already told. See, there are a lot of good solutions which are available in the market and which are still evolving, and in the times to come, they are going to help contain these kind of cybersecurity risks.
Another aspect about cybersecurity that's also evolving are the legal aspects of it or the compliances. Praveen, if you could elaborate on that, and are we at par in terms of regulations?
I think if we are talking about RBI compliance or SEBI compliance, wherever we are subjected to, right? So organizations in my experience, they genuinely try to provide that particular compliances, right? Implement controls which are mentioned by them, right? That is one aspect of it. So regulator is, we are responding to a regulatory requirement. But regulators are, we have to understand from their perspective also, right? So regulators are studying the businesses across India, across globe, identifying the best practices and mandating those practices for us in order to safeguard our organizational interest and our customers' interest, at the same time national interest. So that is the whole exercise in gamut. But whatever controls they are basically asking us to implement, we have to look little beyond what is just prescribed by these regulators, right? Because our organization, our structures are unique, right? We have a particular way of working, we have a particular systems implemented in a particular fashion, right? Our networks are different, applications are different. Even if we talk about Finacle, which is implemented across various banks, but the customization done within that particular Finacle and the network requirements, etc., will be completely different. I'm talking about one application here. So we have to not only comply with the regulatory requirement, which in my view, I think we are on par with other countries if you are comparing to, but we have to look little beyond to mitigate the risk which is unique to us, our organization, and maybe conduct a comprehensive risk assessment and figure out the relevant controls.
Mitigating risk is what we are looking at through a overall perspective. As time is ticking away, before we get to the last leg of the discussion, if any one of you have questions, we can quickly take in a couple of questions. Any questions? Yeah? So we can move. You have a question there?
You discussed if there are no patch done, there is a risk. But with a fully patched systems, still risks are there. So how to manage that?
Let's take another example, right? So we would have entered in this particular hotel and the guard would have checked our dicky if we have driven here, right? Car's dicky, right? Does it secure us completely? No. So patching is one of the aspects. As it was rightly mentioned that out of 100 successful attacks, 60 attacks attribute to the open door. Now let's say same Praveen is going on a trip and he has locked his door with double lock, right? Ensured all the windows are closed. Is Praveen completely safe? No. So that is where the component of risk management comes in, right? A residual inherent risk, implement the control, and then we get the residual risk, which is acceptable. We cannot do anything about it, right? And patching is one of the aspects. Then you have network security, you have applicable perimeter security, right? You have other monitoring, SOC monitoring, etc. So in spite of that, I would not say we are 100%. There definitely will be a residual risk, but that is something which we have to live with.
So I'll just like to add to the point which my colleague has told, just to give you a clear example. See, when we leave our home, even if we know there are security forces available across, don't we lock the systems? Can we leave it open? No. Why do we lock the systems? By knowing that there are, regulators available, security systems available. Why do we do it? Because we understand it's a shared responsibility. See, security is always a shared responsibility. We cannot trust on something without taking some basic measures. And I think this patching is one of the proactive measures that gives us the confidence that at least to the best of the possible attacks which are there in the system, at least I have taken certain steps in order to ensure that my systems are foolproof.
Manoj, you wanted to add some point to it?
Just a small example. If you lock your house, you also put a CCTV. So, to make sure. So patching is just one aspect. There could be other aspects as well. You monitor this. When you leave the house, you want continuous monitoring. That could be certain other aspects. As my co-panelist told, something like a SOC monitoring, you put intrusion prevention systems, and you put something like malware gateway, a prevention gateway. There are many, options are many. So how far you go is the question. How paranoid are you to protect your system? And what is that you want to accept as a risk, residual risk?
So, Manoj, what you said, there are options, many options, and how far we go is key. So, when you look at the future, what is the roadmap that you will chart out for cybersecurity in the BFSI segment?
So first and foremost, that what comes to my mind is automation. Automation has a big role to play in security. If you leave humans or individuals, any one of us, to do things the same way and protect ourselves, we will probably fail at some point of time. Patching is something, just one example. If it is automated, it will get patched anyway. So if you leave it to humans, it will not get patched. If you have an automatic door which closes behind you once you leave, it will work all the time. And if you think that somebody manually closing it, that's not going to work all the time. Second is using technology. Technology, something like AI, ML, which has come, and more important in the context of cloud and other things, edge computing that is coming up. Those need to be adopted proactively by the organization to take benefit of those technologies. The third and most important thing is, I always respect Darwin theory of evolution. We should all evolve. What you have been doing yesterday, we should something different and better to protect ourselves and assets every day. So these are some of the basic things that I did like to emphasize on.
Mohinder, how do you see the system evolving?
So, ma'am, to me, as my co-panelist has already told, so it's not a rocket science. The only 3-4 points that we have to keep in mind. Of course, first thing, we need to have a right cybersecurity framework in place. We may have right SOC, which is there in our system, but looking to the trends which are happening in the cloud, in the digital, we need to upgrade ourselves and make sure that we are having the right SOC solution in place. Coming to the second point, of course, again, the cyber hygiene, making sure that my stakeholders, my internal and external partners, everybody is fully aware and how best measures I can take. I think there should be a complete focus and it has to be a continuous process. Third and very important part is collaboration. See, cyber crime is not a kind of restricted to a certain geography. It is a global phenomenon. So we need to make sure that we collaborate with each other and we get the right threat intels from all the industries at the right time to make sure that such crimes or such threats which are there in the system, they are not hitting me again. So these are the 2-3 things which I feel, I think if we keep on doing continuously. And the last point I would also like to touch upon from the regulator side, though regulator is already working, very proactively. From the banking side, they have set up NCII PC, they have set up CERTIN. There are so many regulatory agencies which are continuously providing us the inputs. But with the continuous evolution of the cyber threats, they should also make sure that all the entities which are governed by the regulatory aspects also follow certain standards. Either, let's say, for example, from the ISO perspective, from the PCI perspective. So wherever which industry requires those kind of standards should be strictly governed by those laws.
And Praveen, if I can end with you, if you had a crystal ball to gaze on, how do you see cybersecurity panning out across the BFSI segment in the next decade?
Well, I like the idea of crystal ball. Like any CISO wants to have that crystal ball to figure out what threats he might be encountering within his organization. See, evolution, which we have basically referred, right? There are basically 2 things which I see. One is a planned evolution, which will definitely happen. Like a regulator will come up with some framework, new solutions will come, like deep security, etc. Right? We will keep on implementing them in our organization. So this is organic evolution, I would say. Then there will be inorganic evolution, right? New attacks will come, right? Some mind will come which will create something other than ransomware or the usual malwares which we talk about, right? So it's not like it's not happening. As we speak, new malware is happening, is being built, right? So attackers are constantly thinking, how can they steal information, new oil, right? Information being new oil. So at the same time, I'm happy actually. When I look at the industry, there are new solutions are also available by which we can mitigate them. So 2 things, planned and unplanned. Within planned framework, new solutions, implementation, etc. Unplanned, we will utilize the crystal ball.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing key insights. And it was a really interesting session. Thank you so much.